Hello everyone, my name is Sugar Paolino. I am co-owner and co-founder of Island Oasis. To my right is my real-life husband and world partner, co-owner, co-founder Damian Paolino. Today we're doing a meeting because we just did a big upgrade. We upgraded the software and we also turned on the hypergates. So Damian will be doing most of the talking. Years ago when we first opened, which was March 1st of 2011. Wow, it's been that long already. March 1st, 2011. Shortly after that, we had turned on the hypergates, but there was a lot of security issues at that time. So we had a meeting with all of the members in Island Oasis, and we decided to turn off the hypergates until we could get to a point where either we could more secure our members' content, the people that work on the hypergrid could make improvements on their end, or combined. And that day has now come. So we have turned on the hypergates. We have our own kind of provisions that we've done here, which is going to be different than other hypergridded regions that you would go to. So I will turn this over to Damian so he can get started.
Hello. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We had a meeting earlier today at open town hall meeting to basically go over this very same thing and discussed everything. Unfortunately, there was a problem with the audio quality on that recording, so Sugar and I have decided to sit down and just do a review of all the things that we discussed earlier today, just to make sure of the quality of the recording and that everybody can kind of hear what's going on here. So the bottom line is that, what Sugar said, back in 2011 or 2012, we had the hypergates turned on, and our members enjoyed the hypergrid, but we had questions and some concerns about the security of our content and the content of our content creators. And so we essentially put it up to a vote, and the decision was made at that time to turn the gates off. The intention was we're going to wait until we feel comfortable that the security of content is better, and they make advancements in the hypergrid technology, and they've done that. It's now 4 years later since we did that, since we turned those off, and we feel comfortable now. Like Sugar said, we've also made some additional modifications to the code, to the OpenSIM code that we're running here in Island Oasis to ensure a higher level of security. So, without further ado, I'm going to start. I have some slides here to go through. Essentially, is Island Oasis hypergrid? What does it mean to you? Obviously, there's many other grids out there. Many of them are hypergridded, and each grid handles content differently. They handle what is allowed to travel off the grid and what's not allowed to travel off the grid. We have to take some things into consideration that maybe some other grids do not. Because we are a commercial grid, and I'll move to the next slide here. First, our motivation. Our motivation for why we turned on the hypergrid was, I think, just the obvious blaring truth, and that is that we can no longer deny the fact that hypergrid is the future of OpenSIM. We know it's all going in that direction. Ultimately, in my opinion, there's going to be a time where every single grid is interconnected somehow in some way, whether there's a common currency that's being used across all grids, or it's hypergrid, or whatever type of technology. The intention, I think, in the end, is to have all grids interconnected, so that you can travel to all grids, buy content on all grids, and so on and so forth. So we've reached that point where we can no longer deny that that is the future. So we've decided to embrace it and become part of the greater metaverse. So that being said, that also introduces a unique challenge because we are a commercial grid. And when I say commercial grid, I mean a grid that, you know, sells SIMs and has content creators that want to contribute to a viable economy. So how do we do that? How do we have the best of both worlds? How can we take part in being part of the greater metaverse while at the same time protecting the intellectual property rights of our content creators? So what we've decided to do is use what we call permission filtering. And then we'll move on to the final slide. Like I said, this won't take very long to go through everything. Permission filtering is essentially using the standard permission settings on items, because as all of you are probably aware, every single prim, texture, note card, sound file, whatever, every single asset, every single type of asset, and every single type of inventory item in an OpenSIM-based virtual world has three basic permission settings. You've got copy, mod, and transfer. So until the advent of a global export permission setting, until that day comes, I mean, I think there are a couple grids, maybe one or two grids now that have an export permission, and the sole purpose of that permission is to make the determination as to can this content leave the grid or not. Until that day comes, and everybody has access to a viewer that supports it, we have to utilize and use what we have. At this point in time, after much discussion, Sugar and I have decided that we're going to use the transfer permission to make that determination. So what does that mean? That means that if an item is set to transfer, it can leave the grid. Now, we have two different scenarios that we need to be concerned with. We have two different types of residents, two different types of users. One is a local account, and that is someone who's created an account on our website and is local here, native to Island Oasis. And then we have foreign visitors. Those are folks who have created accounts on other grids and are traveling to Island Oasis for the purposes of social interaction or content acquisition, whatever their purpose is, they're traveling here. So those are the two scenarios. Now, in this particular situation with local accounts, who might be traveling elsewhere, going to other grids like GCG or to OS Grid or wherever, they're going to have restricted access to their inventory. In other words, if it's not in their suitcase, which is a folder that is created automatically the first time you hypergrid, and that suitcase folder contains its own unique and separate set of system folders like landmark folder, object folder, texture folder. That folder structure is created automatically the first time you hypergrid off of any grid. You can access only what's in that suitcase. We've restricted access down to what is in your suitcase only. 90% of the time, what is in that suitcase has been acquired while you've been traveling the hypergrid. So if I'm traveling to OS Grid and I acquire an outfit or a piece of furniture, those items that I'm acquiring are going to go into my suitcase. And I can access them while I'm traveling abroad. And I can also bring them back here to IO and access them here. So you can acquire content off-world and bring them back to Island Oasis and use them here as well. But your Island Oasis inventory, the inventory that is native to this grid, will not be accessible to you while you're traveling. And there's a reason why we did that, because we have 4 to 5 years worth of content on our servers. And those content creators have been creating content throughout course of those 3 or 4 years or 5 years, and have not been given the opportunity to make any decisions as to whether or not they want that content to leave the grid, because that wasn't even an option back then. So we can't make any assumptions. We can't just assume that this item was created 2 years ago before we had Hypergrid, but it's transfer, so you know what, we're just going to let it leave the grid. We can't do that. That wouldn't be fair to our content creators. So we're restricting what local accounts can take off the grid. Foreign visitors is another scenario. That's a scenario where someone is traveling to Island Oasis for social purposes or to acquire content. They can acquire content here just like any other member. They can acquire currency through our Podex terminals. Rather than they can't purchase content on our website, but they can purchase content through the Podex terminals. And once they've acquired currency, they can purchase stuff. They can go to a mall. They can buy a suit. They can buy furniture, whatever they want to do, and they can take it with them when they travel, provided that item or those items are transfer. If they are no transfer, those items will not leave I/O. When they teleport back to their home grid, they will see that that item is still in their inventory. They'll be able to see that item on their inventory, but they will not be able to res it or wear it or do anything with it. They'll get a message, something along the lines of, the asset could not be found. That item is only accessible to them. If it's no transfer, that item will be only accessible to them when they're here in I/O. So that's what we have done. One of the steps we've taken to ensure that we put the power in the hands of our content creators they can make the decision as to whether or not they want their goods or their products to leave Island Oasis. If they don't want it to leave the grid, just make it no trans and it won't leave the grid. The other thing, and there's another loophole that we found in the OpenSim software, and that is, if you're wearing an item, regardless of permissions, while you teleport off the grid, it goes with you. We've closed that loophole. So what happens is when either a local account or a foreign visitor, when you're teleporting off of Island Oasis to go to a different grid, the very first thing it does is it inspects everything that's attached to your avatar. All your attachments, your HUDs, your clothing layers, your body parts, skin, hair, shape, eyes, all of it. It inspects everything and checks the permissions. If the permission on any one of those items is no trans, and that item was created here in I/O, it stops your teleport. You will not be allowed to leave the grid until you take that item off. So that's what we've done to ensure that the wishes of our content creators are being respected, so that if I'm creating an outfit and I don't want this outfit to leave the grid, I just make it no trans. And visitors can come and they can purchase it and they can use it as much as they want while they're here. But if they attempt to leave the grid with that content, it will not let them do so. So that's really the crux of what this meeting is to really convey this information to you so that you're aware of the way it works. We've also, in implementing this new Hypergrid technology here in I/O, what we have done is all of the Island Oasis owned regions are Hypergrid enabled. When I say Hypergrid enabled, what I mean is those regions allow Hypergrid visitors from other grids to go and land on those regions. Any of the regions on the Island Oasis grid that are not owned by the grid, at this point, by default, right now, will not allow foreign visitors to travel. So if you own a sim here in I/O, we've upgraded your region to the newest version of the Hypergrid software, but foreign visitors, by default, right now, will not be allowed to travel to your region. If you choose that you would like to allow foreign visitors to travel to your region, what we're doing is we're putting a note card giver at the welcome zone where you can pick up a note card, put in your name and the name of your region that you would like to have Hypergrid visitors to allow them to come, and then put that note card in my mailbox. And what I will do then is I will go through and I will enable those regions to allow Hypergrid visitors. Now, by default, every region on the grid, even the ones that won't allow visitors, will still allow you to teleport off to another grid. It just won't allow foreign visitors in.
So for any landowners that have malls or other shops that are on your land, please be mindful of your renters because they may not want to be on a region that's hypergridded. Give them notice if you do decide this is what you would like, is to allow hypergrid visitors to be on your land. Give your renters notice and let them know that on this date, whatever date you choose, you will be opening up your land to allow hypergrid visitors. So they should make the changes accordingly to what they're going to need. If they choose to stay with you, then they'll need to make some other things, transfer. So that way people can, when they hypergrid over to you, they can buy other people's content and be able to take it with them. Or if they choose, yes, I want people to be able to look, but I don't want them to take it off of IO. Again, that's perfectly fine. That's their choice. But give them the respect of letting them know that that region will be. And if you choose not to, I would also let your renters know because they may want to be on a region to allow hypergridders to come there.
So that's essentially what we wanted to go over and discuss and to convey this information to all of our members. And I'm trying to think of what else that we would like to discuss.
There were some questions in the meeting earlier about when you travel. Okay, well, one of the questions was from Chief. What money do you use when you're going to all these other grids? What money do you use?
And I think my response to them was, your money. I'm not going to give you money. But I think the point of his question was, what currency do I use? And so that would be really, depending on what grid you're going to, you would actually acquire currency on that grid, most likely through a Podex type system. And the other thing to keep in mind is we have Podex here, and most of these other hypergridded grids have Podex as well, which is a currency exchange system. And so what you could do if you're a local member here is you could take some of your Paolinos, which is our currency unit, and transfer that currency to a different grid, so that once you arrive there, you can use that currency to purchase goods and services there. So you can utilize that service to transfer currency back and forth.
Another question that was asked was, if hypergridders come over to IO, are they able to join IO groups?
And that's a good question, and the answer is yes. I'll give you an example. Was it yesterday? Or was that today? Yesterday. I'm sorry, it's been a long weekend. We teleported to a region on a different grid to go visit some friends of ours yesterday, right after we did the upgrade. And while I was there, I joined a group. And it was an event group for Hypergrid. And what's kind of interesting is today during the meeting, I got a group notice for that group, and I was in IO, and I got the group notice. So yes, the answer is yes.
Another question that was asked was, how do you find all these other grids? Because as of right now, we're going to have a portal at our welcome zone, and it's only going to have OS grid in it. That doesn't mean that's the only place that local residents are able to go to. That's just easy access to OS grid. We will add more grids as time goes on, but that's going to be a case-by-case basis because I'm not putting all grids in the portal. But that was asked is, where's a list of grids? And if it's not in the hypergate, how do we get there?
All right, that's a good question, because I think for some people, maybe many people who are watching this video, hypergrid is a new concept to them. They've spent most of their time in closed grids, whether it be SL or IO or in-worlds or other closed grids. The idea of hypergrid is new to them. First of all, where do you go to get a list of grids or hypergrid locations or destinations where you can visit? I'm going to post this in local chat. That's a website that you can go to, and it lists a pretty decent, comprehensive list of hypergrid locations that are out there and are open for you to visit. And so then the second part of that question, part B of that question, is how do I go there? Well, once you find a location on that website that looks interesting to you that you would like to visit and you click on it, you'll see on the right-hand side a hypergrid address. And what you do then is you copy that address, you select it in Control-C or right-click copy, and then you open up your world map in your viewer. And in your viewer, on your world map, next to the Find button, you'll see a space where you can search for a region. Paste that hypergrid address in there, and then hit Find. And provided that location is up and running, it will find that location. And then once it finds it, you click Teleport, and it will then teleport you off of the grid. That's the easiest way. You don't need a portal to hypergrid. Let me just make sure I'm clear on this. A portal is for convenience only. A portal is nothing more than a script that's in an object that you can click on to pick a destination and then click it again to teleport. It's really for a convenience, but it's not needed. Most people who hypergrid use the world map to do it because the tools are already built in viewer to do it. You don't need a portal to hypergrid.
I think one of the other questions, one of the last questions that kind of stuck with me, well, in fact, there's two of them. First one, and these will be the last two questions then. The first one is, can you be friends with other people on other grids and communicate with them? And the second question is, am I able to landmark other places on the hypergrid that I frequently go or I'd like to go back to, and will those landmarks work from here in IO?
The short answer to both of those questions is yes. I can hypergrid to a west grid and make a friend over there and friend them just like you would here. And then the next time I log in and I'm here in Island Oasis, when they log in on their home grid, I will see that they're online, and I can then send them an IM. I can even pass them stuff through IM, just like I can pass content to other members here in Island Oasis. So the hypergrid interconnectivity is slowly moving in the way of closing the gap between grids. It's almost like it's trying to create one large grid, and you see less and less separation between grids. So yes, you can IM, you can see when they're online, and you can talk to them via IM. The second thing is landmarks, and again, the answer is yes. When I teleport to a destination on another grid that I find very interesting or fun, I can landmark that. Now, obviously, I'm going to be off-world, what I call off-world, so that landmark will go into my suitcase folder. And later then, maybe a week later, I can go into my suitcase, find that landmark, and I can double-click it, and I can teleport to that location. That's the beauty of once you're hypergridded, when you create a landmark, the hypergrid address, the entire hypergrid address is stored as part of the landmark. So it will teleport me off the grid to that destination. Provided that destination is up and running, you will be able to get there.
Okay, so I think that's about it, all that we really had to talk about. So we are going to close this meeting. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, Feel free to find me and Damien in World and Island Oasis. We have mailboxes at our welcome zone. You can drop us a note card. We also have Facebook. You can find us there. Sugar Paolino, Damien Paolino. Friend us there. Send us a message on there. Lots of different ways to get a hold of us. We're looking forward to being part of the greater metaverse. There will be, I'm sure, as Damien has mentioned before, growing pains. But as we've always done, we work through them and find ways to fix them. So, from all of us here at Island Oasis, thank you very much and have a good evening.